Brian, you ready?
Yes.
Good to go? All right, ready on the right?
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the regularly scheduled City Council meeting for January 17th, 2023. My name is Mark Clark, the mayor. Call the meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Clark.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Kessel.
Here.
Councilmember Spear.
Here.
Councilmember Johnson.
Present.
Councilmember Neal.
Present.
Councilmember Mortensen.
Here.
And Councilmember Providence.
Present.
All right. Next up on the agenda, we have a proclamation for the School Board Recognition Month. I'll go ahead and read that. Whereas school board members are elected to sit in trust for their diverse communities, and in that capacity are charged with meeting the community's expectations and aspirations for the public education of their students. And whereas school board members are entrusted with the guardianship and wise expenditure of sacred tax dollars, and they are responsible for maintaining and preserving the buildings, grounds, and other areas of the school district that the community has put in their trust. And whereas school board members are responsible for providing leadership that ensures a clear, sharp vision of public education for their schools, that sets high standards for the education of all students and requires the effective and efficient operation of their districts. And whereas school board members adopt policies to give voice to that leadership and employ a superintendent to administer board policies, and are also responsible for the regular monitoring of the district's performance and compliance with policies. And whereas the board members elected to the school board positions deserve recognition and thanks for the countless hours of volunteer service to public education and the students of our states. Now, therefore, I, Mark Clark, Mayor of Evans, do hereby declare my appreciation to the school members of the Greeley-Evans District 6 School Board and proclaim the month of January 2023 as School Board Recognition Month in the city of Evans. I urge all citizens to join me in recognizing the dedication and hard work of local school board members and in working with them to mold an education system that meets the needs of both today's and tomorrow's students. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the official seal of the city of Evans this 17th day of January 2023. And I know we do have a member of the school board here to accept this proclamation. If you please join me up front, we'll take a picture and I'll present this to you. If you'd like to come up and say anything, you're welcome to.
So I'm the newly appointed school board member for the Greeley-Evans District 6 School District. We are actually, for this fall, we are hoping to recruit somebody from Evans to join the board to be one of the 7 board members so that we have more Evans representation. So if you guys want to put that bug in people's ears to go ahead and run for office in fall 2023, we would love that. I'm super excited to be receiving this recognition for the school board. I'm just learning what the job entails. I was just appointed mid-November, but in these 3 short months, I've learned of how much work school board members do. And even today, from 2 to 4, I was at McAuliffe. We visit about 2 schools a month, aside from the Monday meetings that we have, and so many more volunteer hours. So it really is a big job with a lot of responsibility, but we're all extremely motivated to help our students reach their potential. I'm especially proud to be here in this Evans City Council meeting because my workplace has been in Evans for the last 9 years. I work like less than a half a mile that way at the Sunrise Montfort Family Clinic. I've been there since 2014, serving Greeley Evans families through healthcare, but now I get to serve our children through being a member of the school board. So thank you again for the recognition. So appreciated, and I was with the rest of the school board earlier today at McAuliffe, and everybody is very thankful that sometimes when we hear a lot of negative words coming our way, it's nice to feel supported and appreciated for the hard work the board members do. Thanks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Congratulations on your appointment.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is audience participation. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to address the City Council on any item that is not on the agenda or of a public hearing? If so, please step forward. Hi, Steve. Nice to see you.
Good evening, Council, and Happy New Year. I haven't been here, haven't had a chance to be here. I would piggyback on the recognition that was just shared. As some of you may know, I have been in the work sessions for Greeley Evans School District 6 for the last 8-9 years, and I've been an active participant behind the scenes in some of the issues that are going on. Right now, we have a school district that is graduating high school students with 35% of them reading at grade level. We've got 32% that are proficient in math. We have 42% of our high school graduates from Greeley Evans School District 6 that when they get into college need remediation at every level. That concerns me greatly. It tells me we're not doing the job. Not only that, but in the background, I have been one of the people that has been reading some of the obscene books and some of the things that have been going on that are in our libraries in Greeley Evans School District 6. So this isn't just a fallacy, it's a reality. And I hate to say that, and I hate to rain on anybody's parade, but we must do better for our children. And so while I do laud the volunteerism, and I know every one of you are volunteers, and part of the reason why I show up to meetings like this is because I so appreciate the work you do. And I appreciate the work that school boards do. But on behalf of our parents, on behalf of our students, we must do better. So as we laud the school boards, as we applaud what they do and the work they put in, I would also encourage you to take an active role in making this a safe place for our students, free of obscenity, free of filth, make a place for our students of pure and true education in the fundamentals, and once again, clean our school system up so that it'll be a place for everybody's children to receive the education they need. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the audience? Seeing none, all right. And next item, approval of the agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda?
No, Mayor.
I move to approve the agenda. Second.
I have a motion, a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next item, consent agenda. Item number 2, approval of the January 3rd, 2023 City Council meeting minutes.
I move to approve the consent agenda. Second.
I have a motion, a second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Moving on, new business. Item number 3, consideration of ordinance number 793-23, approving of an oil and gas lease between the City of Evans and PDC Energy Incorporated for city-owned minerals located near the intersection of Industrial Parkway and Brantner Road. First reading, and we will hear from staff.
Yes, Mayor and Council, this first business item is an item coming to you from the Community Development Department for consideration of an oil and gas lease between the City of Evans and PDC Energy. I would ask Randy Reedy, our Assistant City Manager, for the staff presentation.
Yes, this is another of a series of these leases that you've seen over the past couple of years. You saw 2 in 2022. This is another one with PDC. This is for property, as you can see here near the intersection of Brantner Road and Industrial Parkway. City-owned property, about 11 acres. We have negotiated and stayed consistent with the terms that we've been insisting on, which we understand, are best practice, that consists of a 20% royalty and a $2,500 per acre upfront payment. So for this property, we'll be receiving almost $30,000 upfront and then 20% of production over the next several years. The term is 3 years with an option to extend for two years additionally. So obviously there's no deviation from the leases you have been seeing and approving, and we would request your consideration and approval of this one this evening.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments?
I have a question. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Didn't even look.
That's what I was playing, go ahead.
The payment from this lease, Mr. Reedy, goes into what fund?
General fund.
Into the general fund. Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
And they are tracked carefully because we don't want to be spending recurring expenses on them.
Right.
We realize that these can be one time.
Yeah, one time, and the input and the profit from this is kind of fluctuating too. So
It's fleeting, yeah.
yeah. So again, I'd like to see it so that we are this is extra. It's not something that we rely upon as far as funding goes. So thank you very much.
Any additional questions, comments? I do actually have just a question. In the motion in the packet, it says upon second reading. I'm assuming it's supposed to be first, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, this is first reading, yes.
All right. There's no any additional questions or comments? I'd entertain a motion.
I move to approve ordinance number 793-23 on first reading, approving the lease as negotiated with PDC Energy Incorporated on parcels of land located near the intersection of Industrial Parkway and Brantner Road, and authorizing the mayor to sign the oil and gas lease in order for payment upon first reading.
Second.
I have a motion, a second, to approve ordinance number 793-23 on first reading, approving the lease as negotiated with PCD or PDC Energy Incorporated on parcels of land located near the intersection of Industrial Parkway and Brantner Road, and authorizing the mayor to sign the oil and gas lease in order for payment on first reading. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you. Moving on, item number 4, public hearing. Consideration of ordinance number 791-23, request for a change of zone from commercial C3 to residential R3 for multifamily housing at the northwest corner of 23rd Avenue and 42nd Street, Prairie View Drive. First reading. I will open the public hearing and we will hear from staff.
Yes, Mayor and Council, this too is an item coming to you from the Community Development Department with the recommendation coming from the Planning Commission. For staff report, I'll turn it over to Assistant City Manager Randy Reedy.
Great, thank you.
We're pulling up the slides on that. This is an application for a change of zone from commercial C3 to residential R3 to allow the development of multifamily housing. It's at the corner of Prairie View Drive, 42nd Street, and 23rd Avenue. That northwest corner there, currently owned by Landings Development. Under our zoning code, multifamily residential is allowed in either C3 or R3. However, it would be a special use permit under C3. It would be allowed as a right with a site plan, administrative site plan. So it's a much more streamlined, faster evaluation and potential approval process. Either way, a development agreement would be required and would come back to you for your approval under either of those scenarios. It is about a 6.5 acre parcel there at the corner. The early proposal that we saw, conceptual site plan, calls for 10 two-story buildings, each with 10 two-bedroom apartments in them. So a total of about 100 units on these 6 acres. And I believe there's some site plan configurations. Again, those are highly conceptual, but that's what they're looking forward to on this site. Just a use comparison under the zone districts, as I mentioned. As you can see here, the multifamily residential is allowed under C3, but it does take a special use permit. Under R3, it is a permitted use requiring a site plan. There are a number of other uses that are uses only in R3, and many uses allowed only in C3 that are not allowed in residential, but multifamily does have overlap. This application has followed our standard land use review process, has involved a pre-application meeting with the developer. An application was submitted last year, it's gone through public notice, and a sign has been posted. It was reviewed and recommended for approval by the Planning Commission at its last meeting in December, and is before you now for first reading, and would come back for second reading if approved on first reading here. The criteria for approval are outlined in the staff report and also summarized here. You'll see that it is adjacent to multifamily to the north. It does have a public park located immediately to the west, and to land that's actually in the county, still in the county across 23rd Avenue, the Vaughn parcel, and parcels to the north there. Infrastructure is in place to serve this development. The particular parcel is indeed the correct site for the proposed development, gets at its context in the neighborhood and availability of infrastructure. And while there has not been an error in the zoning, there have been significant changes in the area to warrant a change of zone. The staff report outlines some of those. In particular, the retail climate in Evans, item review criteria 4, given the extension of 23rd Avenue, in late 2021, staff did ask our retail consultant, Katie Press, to reevaluate this site for retail use if it were to remain a commercial lot. And you can see her findings there. She believes that there's a lack of trade area depth along 42nd Street, mainly because of the proximity of the river and the termination of 23rd Avenue at 42nd Street. That street, unless something dramatically changed, will never go further south than 42nd Street, because the street that's been targeted to cross the river would be 35th Ave. So we wouldn't have two very expensive bridges within a mile apart there. So it does hinder that as a retail site. It keeps the retail desirability limited probably to convenience and gas, and is not something that is tremendously viable in that area. So in lieu of sprinkling retail, the direction, as you know, as we've discussed on multiple occasions, is to focus our efforts on 37th Street, 35th Avenue, 23rd Avenue, and the Highway 85 corridor. So that is our presentation this evening. That is the request of the developer to change this to a residential zone, changing away from the commercial zone district, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Is there any questions of staff?
Yeah, it says, in item, number 2, it says outside referral agencies have reviewed the change of zone application. Can you give us an example of some of those outside referral agencies?
Yes, these are routinely referred, every application is routinely referred to the school district, the fire district, those two in particular, the police department, as well as all the internal departments, engineering, operations, wastewater, et cetera. But the two big ones are always the school district and the fire district.
Thank you.
Any other additional questions?
Is the applicant here? Does the applicant need to say anything?
Yes, Eric Wordsman's here on behalf of the applicant.
Okay, I didn't know if you had a presentation.
Any questions? All right, seeing that there's no additional questions. Because this is a public hearing, I ask if there's anybody in the audience that wishes to come up and speak in favor of this, please step up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Seeing none. If there's anybody against, same. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and open it up for council discussion. Seems pretty straightforward to me.
I don't have a issue of changing this to have a multifamily housing. I am a little concerned about, I think, the size of the lot and how many are proposed, but that's a different issue. I have no problem with changing that. It is right by a park. It only makes sense. There's other housing there, so.
Agreed. Okay.
The only thing I'll say is from a city standpoint, we probably should look, just in general, more quickly at getting a light there at 23rd and 42nd if we're going to put in so much more housing. Already it's, so just in the future for us as a city to look at, we do need to get a light at 23rd and 42nd sooner rather than later.
Yeah, that was exactly what I was gonna say, is just that consideration, which really doesn't play into the decision today, but,
Right.
in favor of that, but would love to hear those considerations as we move forward.
I'm also in favor. I think it would be a great addition to that corner.
All right, if there's not any additional comments, I would entertain a motion.
Upon review of the criteria for approval found in Title 18 of the Municipal Code, the recommendation of Planning Commission, and testimony provided by the applicant, I move to approve ordinance number 791-23 upon first reading with the suggested conditions of approval and development standards as proposed.
I second.
I have a motion, a second, to approve ordinance number 791-23 upon first reading with the suggested conditions of approval and development standards. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you. All right, moving on. Item number 5, public hearing, consideration of resolution number 05-2023, special use permit for bunting disposal for properties located at 3315 and 3311 State Street. I will open up the public hearing and hear from staff.
Yes, Mayor and Council, this too is an item coming to you from the Community Development Department, in which this has been presented to the Planning Commission. They have provided a recommendation for the staff presentation. I'll turn it over to Assistant City Manager Randy Reedy.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. And joining me this evening is Angela Snyder, our senior planner as well. She'll delve into a few of the details, but I just wanted to hit a couple of the high points on this. This is a proposal called the Bunting property along State Street at 3311 and 3315 State Street. The original proposal, as it was reviewed by the Planning Commission this summer, also included 3219. However, that is under separate ownership and is now no longer part of this request for consideration. So what's before you this evening is 3311 and 3315. The item immediately before you is consideration of a special use permit for this property. The item following is a development agreement, proposed development agreement. So these are concurrent or near concurrent review. Both items are related to this property. This is a relatively small 1.3 acre combined acreage. Each of those lots is about 0.65 acres. They are non-conforming properties. The purpose of this special use permit would be to bring them into conformance and to obtain a land use permit that would legalize the use of those properties located west of and right there adjacent to State Street and between just south of 31st Street along Highway 85. These two properties are currently and have been for some time the headquarters of Bunting Disposal. They would continue to be so. What's before you now would be legalizing them, and then the development agreement and the site improvements would bring them into compliance. I'll let Angela cover some of the other details then.
Let's see. Yeah, here's a picture of the site. Another picture. Here is the proposed site layout. So you'll see there are two existing buildings with the drive through the middle. State Street is on the right side. This is the landscape proposal, so you can see that they are proposing trees along State and along their other boundary to the west. So they are going to be screening all of their outdoor storage areas. The outdoor storage is going to stay under that accessory limit of 30%. The Planning Commission asked several questions about what their business is because of it being a waste disposal company. And in the Planning Commission minutes, the property owner, who's here and could explain to you as well, but explained that this is where they will store roll-offs and then the waste trucks, but none of the trash. The trash will be dropped off at the waste management site before they come back here to park. So with that information, the Planning Commission did find that it met all of the criteria for approval, and then did mention that they were happy to see another site in that area coming into compliance. And so they voted unanimously for approval on August 23rd of last year. Oh, and then here's the criteria for the special use permit. So we have, the first one is that the use was unlikely to harm health, welfare, and safety of the residents. Because the area is generally industrial in nature, there wasn't a concern for impacts on the surrounding mostly industrial properties. There is the hotel, but there will be screening. For B, the benefit to the city is that it will bring it into compliance, and it is redevelopment in that very visible Highway 85 corridor. And C, that it complies with the comprehensive plan. Obviously, bringing that site into compliance will match those plans. And then for D, we have compatible with the proposed and existing land uses in the area, and that nuisance conditions have been mitigated. Bringing the site into compliance just can't but help that. There were no concerns with the site being physically suitable for the proposed use. And as far as traffic, the engineering team provided comments throughout the land use approval review process, and those comments have been addressed at this time, so there are also no concerns about the traffic. And then as far as the location of other similar uses, this is a historically commercial and industrial area. So it is more or less the right location for this kind of a project, and so we're not concerned. We don't expect that it's the only one of its kind, and we don't expect there to be other exactly similar uses in the area. H through M don't apply to this case. So the Planning Commission, like I said, did unanimously recommend approval on August 23rd. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Great, thank you. I understand the applicant or the owner of the property is here. If you would like to come up and say anything, or before I open it up to council questions.
Good evening. I'm Eric Warnsman with Warnsman Engineering Land Development, 1011 42nd Street in Evans. As Angela mentioned, we're bringing this existing site into compliance. The majority of the changes will be screening fences, landscaping, and then we're also going to provide funding for future concrete drives once State Street is completed. Then they'll have a new concrete drive into the sites also. That's really the only change to the business isn't changing. It's just an existing site we're bringing in compliance.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions of staff and or the applicant?
I have one.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, I actually have three.
Go ahead.
So really quickly, I know. No, now I have more. And this may be a silly question, and it may not apply, but so we're getting these special use permits, whatnot, to bring things up to code. I don't know how to word this correctly, so I apologize if I say it wrong. But is this something that we could be addressing with code enforcement versus bringing all these special use permits to us? You know what I mean? Like if they're not up to code, because when I was reading in the paperwork, it said the reason that we had to do that partially is that somehow when the two properties were both being used for one, that made it fall out of compliance, is the way I read it. But it sounds like we're having them add landscaping and do all this stuff with fencing and things, and I'm just wondering, is that more code enforcement? And if so, like, why are we not doing that versus this? I just, a little clarification.
Good question.
If I may, that's a really, really good question. So the use of the property for what we ended up calling, I think, a deployment center, deployment office, is not a use allowed listed in the code.
Okay.
So they had a grandfathered in right to be on that original property, but when they expanded to the new property, that kind of negated their non-conforming use protection. So then it needed to come into compliance at that time. Several of the other special use permits you've been seeing are regarding outdoor storage, accessory limitations being exceeded. I'm sure if we need to relook at those accessory limitations, that's something that staff could explore for the council if you'd like.
Okay, and it's nothing that I'm not against this. I'm all for cleaning up Highway 85 and making it look pretty all along there. I was just curious. And then my last question, one of the things I read in there was about washing off the trucks, and there wouldn't be any hazardous materials. What type of drainage are we looking at? Because I know that's sometimes a problem in that area. And I was just wondering if that's going to be addressed with that site plan or down, or how that worked. Just a question off top.
If the applicant could answer whether or not they're washing
Right,
trucks.
so the
that would
existing site has 4 drains and sand oil interceptors that goes through first. And I have Brian Bunting here also if we have any additional questions with that, but that's what he's told me. Also, drainage-wise, yes, it is a problem, but there's like no way to go, but we're not really adding any impervious surface, so we're not making anything worse.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm done.
Councilmember Sher?
So I think you partially just answered my question. I wanted to know, after 30 years of Bunting being there, why all of a sudden we were on them. They've been there for quite some time. So I guess if they've expanded into an area that was not being conforming for us, then that answers that question. Because I'd like to see the business stay here. I don't want to chase any of our businesses off. I want to work with them. My other question is, though, is why, and I see that we do need landscaping and stuff, but I would hope that we are not asking them or requiring them to put landscaping on State Street when State Street is due sometime, hopefully in the near future, to be rerouted. And any landscaping that they would spend money on is potentially, in danger of being torn up while State Street is being torn up. So that's my concern, is I don't want to see a business having to spend money on a landscaping if it's going to be in the direct line of a project, a city project.
A couple points on that. All of the improvements will be done on their property. What you see, pointed out here, along State Street, get it focused. This isn't working right now. There it is. Along State Street, pockets of some plantings, mostly of bushes along State Street. Most of the improvements are actually replacement of a chain link fence with a wood fence, replacement of another fence with an iron fence, and the improvements along the south of the property and on the frontage along Highway 85.
Okay.
So.
All right. So that was my question, after they've been there for so long.
We'd be happy to not put it in.
I just don't want you spending money on something and then having it torn up and then having to replace it again. But I very much appreciate you guys being in business here. And thank you for agreeing to come into compliance. And I'm glad that your business is expanding.
Yes,
thank you.
When it comes to the landscaping and the fencing, I'm really having a hard time with it. We have chain links with barbed wire around the top right now, and they're asking us to replace it with wood fencing. That's not very secure. We have break-ins constantly. I don't understand degrading my security. And then also in the front along 85, when we do plant trees there, they do put snow and snow melt, like salt, on the highway. When they go by like tonight, and it's 12 inches of snow and ice, that salt will be on that fence. And so I don't understand why it'll be dead trees. I don't understand the beautification of that. I don't mind doing it just to comply, but I don't understand the reasoning between taking my good fence down and putting a wood fence up that somebody can kick in. They get wire cutters and go through my fence like nothing. These have to have wire cutters. With the fence, they're just going to kick it in and go in. So I'll comply. I don't understand the reasoning behind it, especially when it comes to the security of the trucks and my people.
Are they allowed to do privacy?
That does actually lead itself to the question I had. So One of the things I was thinking is if there's already an existing fence, there's a similar kind of industrial use along 85, maybe approaching Brighton, but they have an industrial more chain link that they have fed, that privacy stuff through. Can we do something along those lines? And I apologize, I don't know if yours has that or not, but it would be great if we could allow them to do something like that with the slats that you still get to maintain what you have. That provides a little bit more beautification and screening, but I think it makes more sense. I too had concerns about utilizing more landscaping in that area simply by the industrial nature of not only the use, but the location of it. So while I am totally in favor of bringing it into conformity, I also want to make sure that that makes the most sense for you and the use that we see there. So I would love to know perhaps more favorable alternatives for the applicant, particularly with the concerns you have. I think those are very valid and would really like to understand what we could be doing to better assist in maybe meeting a little bit closer.
Agree.
Yeah, we don't need trees there.
The last question I have is, why did it take so long to get from planning to council?
It was a continuance, I understand, at the request of the applicant. Perhaps Derek can describe that further, but there were issues with that third parcel, as we mentioned. It started out as an application for 3 parcels, and
Well, I was in the process of selling the company, and so that's where they wanted me to come into compliance. So we were dealing with Republic since January of last year, January 1st.
Okay.
We've been dealing with them. It took 7 months before we got the clearance on the drainage system, which after the 8th month, we were scheduled to come back to the hearing. Republic at that time pulled out of the deal. And so to me, I just got to get done what I got to get done. But yeah, the deal's been pulled out, so.
Okay.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
And thank you for that clarity. That helps a lot. I'm actually pleased to hear that it was something you requested. I apologize for missing that piece, but that at least provides more clarity for me. So,
Any other additional questions?
I have a question, sir. You said you had some breaking and entering in the past. What items have been taken from your property?
Well, usually
in
batteries,
general?
diesel, batteries. We try to keep our trucks empty.
Right.
In this time of year, we try to keep them full just because they're gelling up. But yeah, they come in, they take scrap metal. I mean, they're hands on everything. So, but no, there's no. I mean, we came in before, no batteries in our trucks.
Wow.
So I mean, that's just part of the society we live in. So.
How often, like in the past year, has there been any type of countermeasures against that? I mean, I'm just asking.
Actually, the gentleman that got shot up on 76 came into our driveway.
Yeah.
It was, he walked straight in our driveway with an AR-15. Luckily, our employees didn't confront him. He walked right in, stole our cars. It was all on camera. Went through one car, went to another car, act like he owned the place. And I just thank God that none of our guys confronted him because he was shot and killed in 76 just a few hours later. So it was kind of a disturbing thing. But yeah, there's some stuff that we just got to remember to protect from.
So is your property currently totally fenced then in chain link right now? Okay, and so these people are able to come in during the daytime? And I'm just wondering, I mean, I know we have landscaping for Highway 85 and a vision for that, but I mean, the city even has property with just regular chain link around it.
In the front,
And
along 85, it's wrought iron fence.
sorry.
Along 85, I put a wrought iron fence. But yeah, it's a wrought iron fence in the front.
So that, and you're talking about, how tall is it then? Is it that? Okay.
Yeah, it's about 5 foot tall.
So there I can see why we would need to have a taller fence.
If it was acceptable for you, it'd be a lot easier for Brian to go ahead and just chain link and vinyl slat the whole property. That would be the most effective and economical thing for Brian.
Is that allowable?
So the
Within
Highway
the naked?
85 overlay is a bit of a challenge. He currently has a fence, and so when you have an existing fence in Highway 85 corridor, you are not actually required to replace it unless it becomes damaged more than 25%. So if he was to leave the existing fence as is, potentially we could allow an accommodation while in the meantime figuring out what to do, because it could be that if his fence was damaged more than 25%, he would have to replace it with something that did comply with the Highway 85 overlay, which says no chain link, no barbed wire, no metal slats, sidings, no concrete walls of a certain kind. It's very, very limited in what you can do for fencing.
So I think that's something that we need to look
That's what I
into,
was
because,
thinking.
I mean, this is an issue that I think was overlooked for sure when making the whole design on the fencing, on the overlay.
Totally agree.
So let's wait.
Yeah.
If we have comments, we'll say this. Let's continue with questions. Or any questions?
Yeah, I have a question, I guess. So kind of with that, I'd love to know, and it doesn't have to be right now, but I guess I need to know then how it affects our decision. I would love to know if and how we can make that possible. How could we allow the existing fence? I like the idea of adding the vinyl for screening, and that seems like an easier option. I would also love to know if there's an option, instead of trees or landscaping, to have, a large decorative rocks or something that, I'll be honest, from my perspective, it makes more sense for the area. But two, I also consider if there's a car trying to ram through the fence, or a car that goes off the highway for ice or whatever, that's probably going to be a pretty firm stop for them, which I would prefer, honestly. I mean, that's something I consider. So I would love to know what our options are relative to those pieces.
One suggestion, council, is to, if you wanted to approve the special use permit, and then send us back to the drawing board to work with this applicant on the development agreement, we'd be happy to do that.
Yes.
Some of the items that you're talking about are zoning code related, and as you know, we're doing the land use code, so we won't be able to provide immediate relief for that, but it's, as we know, in almost every meeting, we're talking to you about the Highway 85 zone district and issues there that we all know we need to address. So let us do that to the maximum extent possible and come back to you with a development agreement that's reworked to the extent of our ability.
Perfect. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
There are no additional questions because this is a public hearing, and ask anybody that's in the audience that wishes to come up and speak in favor or against this, please come up to the podium, state your name, address for the record.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Stephen Grant, 2405 Dock Drive, Evans, Colorado. I know that firsthand that Bunting has been a great neighbor and citizen for years. And it sounds like to me that the development has now encroached on their operation and things have shifted and changed. I think we're operating with two critical concerns here. Number one is a plan that works. If we're going to have dead trees in 6 months because we put them in to satisfy some requirement, that doesn't work. We also have some security issues, and I appreciate your reasoned questioning tonight. I would say I am for the special use request. They've been great neighbors. They've been a great business and continue to be, and I'm for that. But then I believe that it would be incumbent upon our planning department to really work with them to get something that benefits them with regard to security and also with regard to something that is stable. I do have perhaps a rhetorical question on this, and I know that Bunting got into this because of a possible sale that is now not happening, it sounds like. What is being done with the neighbors? What is being done with the other properties alongside of Bunting? Because if we're going to develop a plan along the 85 corridor, then to me it would seem reasonable that at least on the 85 side that some of these considerations would be things that need to be discussed with the neighbors of Bunting so that there's a larger plan with regard to urban redevelopment that should be considered by the city. So that would be my 2 cents worth.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the audience for or against? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and council discussion. I'm in favor of approving this and then sending them back to the drawing board and see if they can't work with them to work out a resolution for their property. I think with the land use code that we're making changes to, I think there's some sway in that could ultimately help them in the long run.
I agree. I'm also for it, but I think we also need to consider just the entire 85 and start thinking about security, the safety of the businesses, and what that looks like for that area. But I agree.
Well, and Steve actually had a really good point with the landscaping. We're requiring some businesses to come up to terms with landscaping, and I'm going to tell you, there's equipment on the other side of the State Street that's been there for 50 years.
Yep.
So, you know, weeds growing up around it and everything. So I think we do need to address this issue, but I am totally for helping this business out, giving them their permit and letting them continue to be an Evans business as long as, you know, they can. And hopefully they'll stay here a little bit longer or sell to somebody who is still interested in being here.
Yep, I absolutely agree.
Yeah, I think I just want to thank Mr. Bunting for coming tonight and helping to explain some things. You know, from council's perspective, having the ability to hear the concerns you have and those sorts of things is really beneficial when we make those decisions. So big thank you for taking the time to come and walk through those pieces with us. It definitely adds clarity and understanding, and much appreciate it.
It also helps with moving forward with other businesses as
100%.
well, security reasons, whatnot. I'm with you. A wood fence versus metal, no offense. I'm like, yeah, I get that. So I agree that's something that we need to look at, and that helps bring that to the forefront for us. So thank you.
All right, if there's no additional, yeah.
Since I've been on council for the past almost 5 years now, I've been pushing diligently, I think, to try to get the agreement with CDOT completed, where we were, Evans was deeded the west and east service roads on the condition that we close them off and reroute them so that the CDOT could get rid of the traffic lights, the extra traffic lights there, to improve traffic flow on 85. And I see that this is another thorn in Mr. Bunting's side to get things that the city is requesting for him to do. That he may have to, if he did it, he may have to rip it back up and redo it. So again, I'm going to request that the council figure out some way to get the money to get that State Street put around Randy's Diner back over to 32nd Street and get it done. And maybe we can attract more businesses there, because that's already in place. And hopefully we'll get that done on the west side here within the near future.
All right, if there's no additional comments, I'd entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution number 05-2023 for the properties located at 3315 and 3311 State Street as presented for the special use permit request, as proposed with conditions of approval.
Second.
I have a motion, a second, to approve resolution number 05-2023 for the properties located at 3315 and 3311 State Street as presented for special use permit request as proposed with conditions of approval. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you.
Your Honor, there's actually two items. So there's the special use permit and then there's the development agreement. And you might entertain a motion just to continue the development agreement until a date certain, perhaps in 2 meetings.
We suggest February 21st.
Can I just state, I move to continue the development agreement. Will that suffice?
To February 21st.
I'm sorry?
February 21st.
To February 21st. I move to continue the development agreement to February 21st of 2023.
Have a motion and a second to approve the development agreement, or to move the development agreement to February 21st. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Who seconded that motion, please?
I did.
You did, okay.
And that actually would take care of item number 6, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Right on.
All right, so next item, report city manager. Before we get to Cody's report here, I just wanted to, for those in the audience that have not yet met Cody Sims, he's our new city manager. He started on January 9th, so he's in his second week. We want to welcome him to the city of Evans, and we're very grateful to have you and all the things that you're going to bring to us going forward. So welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Excited to be here. I just have one item for you guys tonight. We've been keeping an eye on the weather, the impending weather that's coming, expected overnight. The ECC will be closed tomorrow in anticipation for maybe 8 to 10 inches of snow. You know, it's something that we've been keeping a close eye on. But anyway, I just want to get that out to the public. It is on our social media. It is on our website, informing the public that the ECC will be closed tomorrow, but we will be back open for business bright and early Thursday morning.
Great, thank you. City Attorney?
The only thing I have is to let you know that we have a new city manager, and that we look forward to working with him. So, that's all I've got.
Great, thank you. All right, next item, audience participation. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to address council on any item? Seeing none, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
I know.
Record. Yep, allow them to do everything.
That's what I thought.
Right?
But you know what, I mean, I had someone come onto my property. Yes, that guy went to, I went to. Same method, just coming down here,
Yeah.
take care of themselves, and we asked them.
I don't like
We had that one, a few years ago that we had to, yeah.
Yeah.
I know you do. No, but that's great.